What a man asks you before he's had you tells you more about his character than anything he does after. Most women have spent years being told to pay attention to how a man treats you in public, how he introduces you to his friends, whether he texts back. And yes, all of that matters. But there is a moment, a very specific and deeply revealing moment that almost no one talks about. And it happens before intimacy. In that charged, vulnerable space where two people are moving towards something significant. In that moment, a man reveals, without meaning to, without performing, exactly how he sees you. Whether you are a person he treasures or a prize he is collecting. Whether what's about to happen is something he wants to share with you or something he simply wants from you. Most people never realize that the questions a man asks or fails to ask in those moments are the clearest possible measure of how deeply he values you as a human being, not just as a woman, as a person. If you've ever felt uncertain about where you stand with someone, if you've ever wondered whether the warmth he shows you is real, or whether you are somehow being seen but not truly known, this video is for you. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what genuine care looks like before intimacy. You will recognize it when it's real, and you will stop making excuses for it when it's absent. And that knowledge will change the way you allow yourself to be treated forever. Let me start by saying something I genuinely mean. You are not the problem. You are not too sensitive, not too idealistic, not asking for too much. You are not the woman who makes things complicated or overthinks everything. You are a woman who has been taught by culture, by past experience, by watching the wrong relationships up close to lower the bar of what you expect from intimacy. To be grateful for a man who shows up. To not ask for too much before you've earned it. And you've been trying so hard to be that woman. The easy one, the low maintenance one. The one who doesn't need reassurance or conversation or tenderness before she opens up. You've been trying to be the woman who can make things casual even when everything in her isn't casual at all. Here's the truth nobody tells you. The quality of a man's character is most visible in moments of desire. Not in moments when it costs him nothing to be kind. In the moments when he wants something. Because that's when self-interest is at its highest. And that's precisely when a man of genuine care still pauses, still slows down, still makes sure you're okay, still asks. The man who does not ask, the man who moves through these moments with no pause, no check-in, no acknowledgement that there is a real human being in front of him with feelings and history and things that matter, that man is telling you something. Not about his passion, about his character. He is telling you in his silence that his desire is the most important thing in the room. And you deserve more than being the least important thing in the room when someone wants something from you. The 6 questions I'm going to share with you today are not about a checklist. They're not about testing men or scoring their performance. They are a window into the interior of a man who has taken a moment in one of the most self-interested moments possible to think about you first, to put your comfort, your history, your emotional reality at the center of what's happening. That man is not rare in the way people say good men are rare, but he is specific. And once you know what he sounds like, you will never again mistake the performance for the real thing. Let's go through them. I want to start with the most fundamental question of all. Not the most complex, not the most nuanced, the most fundamental. Because this one is about something that should be so basic it goes without saying. And yet, how many of you have been in moments where it wasn't said at all? When a man pauses and asks you, genuinely asks you, not as a formality, not as a performance, but with real weight in his voice, are you sure about this? He is doing something that requires him to put his own desire on hold. He is creating a door. He is making it explicitly, unmistakably clear that you can walk through that door without consequence, without awkwardness, without the fear of his disappointment or withdrawal. That is not nothing. That is in fact everything. Because here's what it signals. He is more concerned with your genuine willingness than with his own momentum. He is saying, without saying it directly, your wholehearted yes matters more to me than a yes I didn't give you the full chance to think about. That is a man who understands that intimacy worth having is intimacy that is freely, joyfully, consciously chosen. Not arrived at by default, not produced by pressure, chosen. And the way he asks matters enormously. There is a version of this question that is purely procedural, a box being ticked on the way to what he was always going to do regardless of your answer. You can feel that version. It has no real pause behind it. It moves too quickly to the next moment. But the version from a man who genuinely cares, it comes with stillness. It comes with eye contact. It comes with a quality of patience in his body that says, I am prepared for any answer you give me. The yes I want from you is only worth having if you mean it. Things are moving forward. The moment has a particular gravity to it. And he slows it down. He pulls back slightly, not dramatically, not as a gesture, just enough to look at you directly and say, quietly and sincerely, hey, are you sure about this?
We don't have to.
And the we don't have to is the part that matters most. Because he's not just asking whether you're consenting. He's offering you a genuine exit. He's telling you that nothing between you will change if you choose that exit. That his care for you is not contingent on what happens in the next hour. That is a man who values the relationship over the moment. A man who creates a real door for you to leave is a man who only wants you to stay if you genuinely want to be there. But here's where it gets interesting. This question requires a different level of maturity. And I want you to understand why. Because the reason behind it is incredibly revealing. Asking whether you're comfortable, really comfortable, specifically comfortable, in terms of what this evening looks and feels like, requires a man to hold space for your individuality, your particular history, your specific preferences and limits, and the things that are yours and nobody else's. It requires him to understand that intimacy is not a standard experience that he is providing and you are receiving. It is something the two of you are navigating together. And he wants to navigate it with you. The man who asks this question is acknowledging something profound, that you came into this moment with a life before him, that you have experiences, some beautiful, some perhaps painful, that have shaped how you feel about closeness, about vulnerability, about your own body. And he is not assuming he already knows those things. He is asking. He is creating the conversation rather than skipping over it. Now, some women, and I say this with compassion, feel uncomfortable when a man asks this. There's a voice that says, oh, he's making it weird, or this is too formal, or I don't want to have to talk about it. I want to gently push back on that instinct, because what that discomfort often reflects is that we've been so conditioned to expect intimacy without conversation, closeness without communication, that actual care starts to feel unfamiliar, starts to feel like friction when it's actually just honesty. A man who asks what you're comfortable with is not being clinical. He is being careful. There is a difference. Clinical is detached. Careful is attentive. What he's saying underneath the question is, your experience of this matters to me. Not just your presence, your actual experience. You're at a point in the evening where the conversation has shifted. And before anything else, he asks, not awkwardly, not robotically, but naturally, is there anything you want me to know? Anything you're not comfortable with? And maybe you do have something. Maybe there's something small, something you've never quite known how to bring up before because the moment was never created for it. And tonight, the moment is created. He made it. He handed it to you. And in that moment, you feel something you might not have felt in a long time. You feel safe. Not safe in the way that means nothing exciting is happening. Safe in the way that means nothing bad will happen. Safe in the way that allows you to be fully present instead of half managing your own comfort alone. The man who asks what you're comfortable with is telling you that your experience is the whole point, not just a side effect of his. Now, this next one might genuinely stop you in your tracks. I want you to really sit with this one, because this question in this specific moment is one of the most intimate things a person can ask another person. And I don't mean intimate in the physical sense. I mean intimate in the way that reaches past the surface and asks for the real thing. How are you feeling right now? Not, are you okay? Which is a closed question that invites a closed answer. Not a gesture or a look that can be interpreted either way. An actual, open, honest question about your inner state right now, in this specific moment, in this specific space between the two of you. Do you know how rare that is? Think about how much of your emotional life gets navigated silently. How much of what you're feeling in intimate moments you process privately, managing your own experience, regulating your own emotions, carefully presenting the version of yourself that seems most appropriate. How often you are in the middle of a significant moment, essentially alone inside your own head. And then imagine a man stopping, really stopping, and asking how you actually feel. Not as preamble, not as a formality he can tick and move on from, but as someone who genuinely wants to know what is happening inside you right now. Because what is happening inside you right now is the most important information in the room. Think about that for a second. That question, asked with real intention, communicates something extraordinary. It communicates that he sees you as someone with an interior life that is complex and worth attending to. It communicates that he's not just interested in your body, he's interested in your presence, the full, real, feeling, complicated presence of you. And if the answer to that question is, I'm a little nervous, or I'm feeling a lot right now, or even I'm not sure, he wants to know that. He wants to be part of how that feels. He doesn't want you to smooth it over for his benefit. That is not a common experience. That is a rare and extraordinary one. And it is the mark of a man who understands that the most profound intimacy between two people begins not with bodies, but with genuine, undefended honesty. You're there. The moment is real and present and significant. And he takes your face or your hand or your shoulder and he looks at you and asks, how are you feeling right now? For real. And maybe you feel 1,000 things. Maybe you feel excited and a little scared and more vulnerable than you expected. And you tell him some of that, not all of it, but some of it. And he listens. He doesn't rush past it. He stays in it with you for a moment. He says, I've got you. And the entire complexion of what follows changes. Because now you are not alone in it. You are with someone who asked, who really asked, and stayed to hear the answer. That is the rarest kind of man, and the rarest kind of evening. A man who asks how you're feeling in that moment isn't interrupting the intimacy. He's creating the deepest kind of it. And if that moved you, this next one is going to reshape how you think about trust entirely. Now, I want to be precise here because this one has nuance. The question itself is not unusual. The way it's asked and why it's asked is everything. There is a version of "have you done this before?" that is about ego, about a man wanting to know something for his own information, his own sense of place in your history. That version has a slightly transactional quality to it. You'll feel it if you're paying attention. But then there is a version that comes from somewhere entirely different. It comes from a man who is paying attention to you, who has noticed something, your energy, your body language, your quiet, and who is asking because he wants to understand your experience. Because the answer will shape how he shows up, how careful he is, how much time he takes, how much space he creates. He is not asking to categorize you. He is asking because your level of experience with this, with him, with this kind of connection, with whatever specific dimension of closeness you're approaching, will tell him how to be the best possible version of himself tonight. How to make this feel right for you. Not for some generic woman, for the specific, irreplaceable, complicated person in front of him. That reframe is significant because it transforms the question from one about him to one that is entirely, genuinely about you. And when asked with that quality, with that softness, that particular attentiveness, it creates an intimacy all its own. It creates the feeling that you are known, that your history is not something to be judged or competed with or dismissed, that it is simply part of you and he wants to know it and he will handle the knowing carefully. You're sitting close, the atmosphere is warm and quiet, and he asks gently, with no urgency, is this something you're used to, or is this new territory for you? And the way he asks it doesn't feel like interrogation. It feels like cartography. He's mapping you, not to judge the territory, but because he intends to walk through it with you. And he wants to know the landscape before he takes a single step. And in that question, you feel yourself exhale because someone is paying attention, real attention, the kind that sees the whole of you rather than the version of you that's easiest to deal with. When a man asks about your experience to understand how to take better care of you, he has made your comfort the mission. And that is everything. Now, we are close to the end, and these final two are the ones that will change how you see everything going forward. This question is quietly revolutionary, and I want to explain why. In so many intimate encounters, the progression is assumed. It follows a familiar script, a script that was mostly written by culture, by movies, by what has always been done, by momentum. And both people follow it without ever stopping to ask whether it's actually what they each want. Things happen by default rather than by genuine conscious choice. The man who breaks that script, who stops and asks you what you actually want, is dismantling the assumption that your desires are secondary, that your experience will be shaped around his. He is creating a dynamic that is radically different from what many women have been given before. He is making your desire the starting point. This matters psychologically in ways that go far beyond the evening itself. Because when a person is genuinely asked what they want, when their desire is treated as something that matters, something worth knowing, something the other person intends to honor, it creates a foundation of mutual respect that changes everything. It changes how you feel about yourself in the space, how present you are, how much you're managing versus simply being. A man who asks what you want is a man who has understood something that many never learn. The intimacy at its best is not one person's experience happening to another person. It is two people genuinely, actively present to each other, meeting each other. And you cannot meet someone properly if you never ask where they are. You're together, and the moment has its own natural pull. And he pauses it just enough to look at you and say, "What do you actually want tonight? Tell me." And maybe no one has asked you that in a long time. Maybe no one has ever asked you that. And you feel the strange, gorgeous, slightly overwhelming experience of your own desire being treated as important, as the point. And you answer. And something in the evening shifts from something happening to you into something happening with you. That shift is small in description and enormous in feeling. A man who asks what you want is a man who already understands that this only means something if it means something to both of you. And this final one is the one that will stay with you most. I've saved this one for last because it is, to me, the most profound of all. Not the most common, the most profound. When a man asks, "Is there anything you need from me first?" in any form, with any particular wording, he is doing something that very few people do in these moments. He is recognizing that you might be arriving at this evening carrying something, a long week, a difficult day, an old wound that surfaces at odd moments, a worry that's sitting somewhere at the edge of your mind, a need to feel a little more settled, a little more held before you open up fully. He is acknowledging that intimacy doesn't begin the moment two bodies are close. It begins when a person feels genuinely seen and received by the other. And he is asking directly and with complete sincerity, what do you need from me so that you can be fully here? That question is a form of love, not romantic love, not yet, not necessarily, but love in the deeper sense of the word, a genuine, active investment in the well-being of another person, a willingness to set aside the direction you were moving in and ask first whether the person you're with is okay, whether they need something before they give something. Most women have spent their lives adjusting themselves to be what is needed in a moment, managing their own emotions privately so as not to burden the encounter, arriving fully prepared to give while often having no one ask what they might need to receive. This question breaks that pattern completely. It is a man saying, you matter here before anything else. You as a person right now with your full human reality, you matter. Tell me what you need. It's been a hard week. You're there with him, and part of you is present and part of you is still carrying something you haven't put down yet. And he senses it because he's been paying attention, because that's the kind of man he is. And he doesn't push past it. He sits with you for a moment and asks, is there anything you need from me before we get to this? Maybe he means a conversation. Maybe he means more time. Maybe he just means to be held quietly for a while. And you look at him and something in your chest loosens because he asked. He saw that you might be carrying something, and instead of needing you to set it down quickly so the evening could proceed, he made room for you to set it down slowly, in your own time, in the presence of someone who wasn't going anywhere. That is not just a caring man. That is an emotionally intelligent, deeply human man. And he is showing you in the most private and honest space possible that you were never just the destination. You were always the whole journey. The man who asks what you need first understands something rare and beautiful, that the most intimate thing he can offer you is not desire, it is care. I want to take a moment here before the close to address something directly. Some of you listening to these 6 questions might feel a pull in your chest that isn't entirely comfortable. Not because the questions are wrong, but because you're realizing, maybe for the first time, how few of these you have ever been asked. And if that's landing somewhere tender, I want to acknowledge it. I want to name it. You were not unlucky. You were not asking for too much. You simply hadn't yet been given a clear picture of what genuine care sounds like in these moments. So you measured yourself against a bar that was set too low, and you called it realistic. It is not realistic. It is inadequate. The care described in these 6 questions is not the standard, because the standard is wrong, not because it's impossibly high. And you are allowed, you are deserving of a man who slows down, who asks, who makes you the most important thing in the room when you are at your most vulnerable. You've been reading the wrong map, and today you have a new one. Here's what I need you to take away from everything we've covered today.
Emma.